This is Rob Equiza, and you are listening to Music Existence. Check out my latest EP. It's called The Last Tier. It's out on all major streaming services.
Welcome back to another interview with Music Existence, where because of music, we exist. Joining me today is one of my longtime, long-distance friends, Rob Equiza. He's currently promoting his newest EP, The Last Tier, which features the B-sides from his album that he was touring with last year called Refugees. And he's going to talk all about that and everything else we cover. But without further ado, welcome, Rob. Thanks for coming on, man.
Great to be here. Always a pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, it's so awesome. We've always had amazing talks. I want to get into the process of a while back getting the refugee tour underway last year. We've talked off screen about you being able to do this all on your own manually by calling up clubs and just telling them the services you offer and what you do and what your music consists of and your links and all that. And prior to that, you had a background in communication and in sales. And I guess to start off, in what ways in getting that tour underway did your sales background come in handy?
I guess it's naturally I've always had that, like being able to talk to people, having that confidence, that self esteem to kind of sell what you want to sell. So last year it was not any different. It's just that I was selling my music, my name as an artist. But yeah, the training that I did have from working in sales for almost a decade helped a lot because cold calls are not that easy. I don't have the resources to actually go to the venues and talk to the clubs or talk to the people who handles or makes the decisions. So cold calls are a huge step. It's the first step and it's the biggest step. So a lot of techniques that I've learned during my work day job that I did have for a decade helped a lot. I mean, the building blocks were, of course, my studies in communication. I studied that program in Far Eastern University here in Manila. So yeah, that those are the building blocks. And then right after that, right after college, I went to work in BPO, big thing here in the Philippines, business process outsourcing. So most people call it call center, but it's not all calls anyway. So I was in sales. Indeed, I was in calls, but mostly it's sales and marketing, either through talking to direct customers or through businesses.
So you really learned to be a go-getter in not only getting these gigs, but in general, your your persistence and your sociability, your natural sociability allowed you to move up the ranks, and eventually you quit sales and you started pursuing music full time. Now, how difficult was that? Was it kind of, did you reach a kind of period where you were like, hey, fuck you, I'll do this on my own? Or were you kind of like at a crossroads, like, man, gotta make this money, but I gotta follow my passion too?
That's true. That's true. Well, you can't have everything, you know. You can't have both unless you really make it in the business, you know. Like we call it music business, but you know, in essence, it shouldn't be that way, you know, because once you get into you know into the commerce side of it, your your art is going to suffer, you know. So your creativity is going to be sacrificed in one way or another. But to answer your question, yeah, I until now I do have thoughts every now and then of you know going back to the corporate world, you know. But it just for me personally, it just eats my soul. It just, I kind of feel like it rots away my brain. So, and there's lots of practices in corporate companies where they're kind of questionable, like morality wise. Would are you willing to actually do it just for the money? So that's where the line is for me. So, but you know, it's still it's still something for me as a family man, as a husband and a father of two kids. I feel that I do need to make money because we know that if you're an indie musician, an underground musician, there's essentially no money in there, right? So that's you know that's the thing. I kind of have to accept that fact, but still keep going and you know make ends meet as much as I can.
And you've done well for yourself. Your numbers show. I know that's kind of a cliche, but according to your numbers, you definitely have a substantial following for an indie musician.
I'd be
From
glad if that was Nielsen ratings though or Billboard, but
Yeah,
that's
according to
shooting the moon.
Nielsen Soundscan, but it's cool how
Um,
you've managed to carve out the following that you have. What would you say really takes you aback about the talent in the Filipino music scene, especially that of your city?
my city, to be exact, it's Pagkainta. It's
Hmm.
in Rizal province, which is just kind of outskirts of the metro. Right? We don't really have a sound here because it kind of bleeds all over, you know. So there's no particular sound here yet. Although back in the last decade, there was the resurgence of hip hop. I don't know if you've heard about Glock 9, but he's from here, and there are a lot of great talents in the hip hop community in here until now, in fact. But with the scenes that I go to, it's mostly like post rock and emo, right? But I'd say it's pretty much diverse. You know, if you go to the far east of Rizal, you'd see those post-core and emo kind of bands. But over here, when as you go near the city, it's kind of diverse. You know, like the pop punk, and then OPM sound, the alternative OPM. You have lots of that. Lots of great talents and skills. Like way better musicians than I am. So you'd be surprised how many great musicians are in and around the metro.
That's awesome, man. And I'm glad you're incredibly aware and insightful, even though you've known musicians and you've known parts of scenes that seem to supersede you. as far as talent, as far as musicianship, you don't let that get you down. You don't dwell on that too much. You just keep going on because you know you have something to offer.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story though. Let me just turn off the fan here for just a bit. Yeah, I'm going to tell you a story. Glad you mentioned that because as musicians, as artists, I'd say, as artists, we do have that self doubt that eats at us every now and then. And no one is excused, man. Everyone goes through it, and I've had plenty of instances of that, like a couple years back. And there was this one time that I almost quit because I saw this band, and I'm going to promote them. In fact, they're called Audio Vault. They're from the same area that I'm in, and their music is grunge, and I'm a huge fan of grunge, and these guys are just killing it. Like this is like the band that I wanted when I was younger, that I wanted to be in, right? And they write great songs as well, um, almost reminiscent of Stone Temple Pilots. But there was that point that when I kept seeing them live, I was just so intimidated. At the same time, I was so amazed and wowed, but at the same time, I was intimidated that I said, I am nothing compared to these guys. But that's the thing, I never realized that these guys have been playing for, so long, and I've started playing the guitar properly just, just a few years back, late 2018 in fact,
Yeah, you
right?
said 2018, 2019 thereabouts, right?
Yeah. So like at the end of 2018, so that's November, December of 2018. So yeah, so if I realized that after like weeks of moping and saying I don't have the skills, the proper playing of the guitar and the knowledge of all these technical stuff that they do. So I was like, dude, I don't think I can continue this. But after weeks of that, I realized I should just study it. I should just continue and learn as I go along. And that's where my journey is right now. And I'm enjoying it. And I'm friends with the band, and they do know that. I tell them all the time. They do know that I almost quit because of them. But yeah, that's a story.
Wow. So, in starting those friendships,
Hmm.
when you move past the intimidation point of how good a band is, what do you feel makes those connections move past that point where you're kind of rough around the edges, but you move into a particular spot where you earn their respect?
Oh, I guess it's mostly because I became friends with them mostly because they're good people. They're in fact they're I think the most humble uh, musicians that I've ever met. They don't flaunt their skills. They don't actually they're very modest. Not in fact humble, not just modest. And I guess it's because of that and the fact that there's too few people that actually appreciate the grunge scene here in our area.
Right.
So yeah, so every time we see each other, we would talk about Pro Jam, Austin Savannah, Soundgarden, and all that. But um, Apart from that, because of my appreciation of their music and for who they are, I did interview them. And just last couple of weeks ago, I believe, we had a surprise meeting. We were playing at the same. We were rehearsing at the same studio, and they just invited me for their last song. Hey, let's jam something. So all of a sudden, I was thrown into the band. We were playing. I was singing Alice in Chains. What was that again? What's the song from oh, Man in the Box?
Man in the
That
Box,
was fun. That was fun. Yeah.
the first big song from Facelift. Wow.
Yeah, from Facelift. Yeah, that was I was thinking of the title of the album. Yeah, that was from Facelift. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, wow.
Well, that's cool that they
Yeah.
they liked you enough. They weren't like, oh, he's a fan. He's too much of a fan, and they acted like kind of evasive toward you. They actually immediately not only felt your appreciation for them, but accepted
Mm,
you as being from the same or a very similar musical
mindset.
cloth and
That's right.
mindset.
That's right. That's right. Apart from that, they do appreciate my music, so that's a big plus for me. Me fanboying and them appreciating my music too. So that's good. I mean, it's not just the band. It's not just Audio Vault that I have this relationship with. There's lots of other bands like Love Over Lust, which you did a review. You wrote a review for their second album. Um, um, Great album, and thank you, by the way, for that review, because they were so ecstatic about it.
Oh,
So,
anytime, yeah. And when it comes to
yeah,
those reviews, I do
mm,
it. Well, I think to get
mm,
into the nitty-gritty technical reasons, the
mm,
the framework, the setup on Music Existence changed. So
mm.
I don't even know where the star ratings are anymore. But now I've figured, like at this point,
Mm,
I do it based on feel. And when I notice that there's something that I recognize
mm,
about it that sticks out to me, I
mm,
don't necessarily write reviews whether this is like overly good or like overly bad. What
mm,
I do is just kind of break it all down and try
mm,
and not surmise what it's about, but
mm.
just really trying to get an understanding of what it's about, and I apply the same aspects to your music, the same sort of thought
Mm.
process.
I love what you said about that. Like the way you described that you just like by feel, because lots of people, whether it be in music and in whatever industry, like especially in the arts, right? Writing, photography. A lot of people get lost in the technicalities of what they do, and the nitty gritty, the details of their equipment, and like, say for example, the structures, but they forget that effectivity is the most important thing when you're creating something. You know, it's not necessarily the exact technical uh, side of it. If it's effective, even if it's the simplest version that you can create, if it just touches the heart, or strikes a chord from the viewer or the audience, then you've done a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right on, man. Like I totally feel that, we speak the same language musically,
mm,
like I was saying. I mean, you do it based on feel. It doesn't necessarily
mm,
have to be the punchiest
mm,
production. Doesn't
mm,
necessarily have to be like the biggest, most marketable, sellable project, because
mm.
anyone at any age, at any circumstance, can find an audience, no matter how niche.
Yeah, yeah, especially with how globalization works. Ever since the internet has become part of the people's daily lives, right? Apart from that, there's this what do you call that again? Democratization,
Yeah,
yeah, of yeah, like we're not just tied into what MTV tells you to like, or Channel V over here tells you to
yeah,
like,
those days are long gone. MTV
Oh,
and
there's
Channel
one.
V
Exactly.
no longer have it. Now it's all about being serving the almighty algorithm.
That is true. That is true. But I still believe in the basic roots way of promoting, like to your friends, like word of mouth, you know, word of mouth, and just being present, as an artist or as a creator. You just have to like show up to as many uh, uh, opportunities as possible. You know, so lots of people forget that. So even the greatest bands or artists out there, even if they create the most perfect song or album, if they don't actually promote it, if they don't do the work, the legwork, then it's not gonna matter. It's just gonna fade into obscurity.
Yeah, yeah, and it's unfortunate, but with the right
Mm,
push, the right muscle, and as you said, word
mm,
of mouth, it makes that the tension, the anxiety of saying like, oh, who's gonna hear my music? What is
mm,
this for anymore? It eases the strain of that little by little.
mm. And would you say that that's actually the reason why a lot of people still want to be on big labels, like major record labels? Because they don't want to do the legwork. They just want the labels to do the marketing and stuff. You know. Well, I do have that intention as well in a way because I do lots of work. I mean, as you know, the choice as a family man, and all the other stuff that I do creatively. But I don't have a choice myself, so I just do it myself.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I don't have that choice because I don't have the resources. But for people who have the resources, they can definitely go that route.
Hmm. We
Mm,
talked previously about um, celebrating the anniversary of Jam Lemon Records. I know
right.
it's
Mm,
expanded a lot. There's a lot of like worldwide reception to it, and
mm,
you've stuck to it, and you've said it perfectly. You go with your gut, and you use the resources that you already have, and you do it your way.
yeah, that's right. Mm,
Let's transition from that to
mm,
your latest EP,
mm,
last year. So
mm,
it's a collection of B-sides from the Refugees album that you put out last year,
mm,
plus the two new tracks, Surrender and Nova Eterna.
mm.
And I'd like to go down and do a bit of track by track. Guess you can kind of mix the two EP, the EP and the album, the two releases
Hmm.
together, and kind of give that background, um,
Yeah.
of not only the B side, but the A
Mm,
side too.
hmm. Yeah. Well, Zeltz was born out of the rebelliousness that I had when I was younger, and there's lots of groups that I've joined, in fact, over the years that just cemented that belief that whenever you're in a certain group, whether it be like a political group or a religious group, they're kind of all the same in that sense of having having those rules that kind of restricts you as a person. It actually kind of prevents growth, to be honest, and doesn't promote um, like self thought, like original ideas. So until now, it does still resonate because of through observations. I'm older now, and I don't necessarily have to join groups or organizations anymore. But yeah, definitely, it does still resonate, especially because here in my country. I mean, not to I love my country, but anywhere you go anyway, there's still that kind of uh, very fanatic uh, groups when it comes to religion and politics. Uh, I love playing that song.
Right.
Uh,
They kind of have like a stronghold on the country, and like
mm,
it's just up to you to um,
mm,
find your individuality,
mm,
and that individuality is
mm,
eloquently and sufficiently
mm,
expressed on its B side. So your friend Kaz does his rant in English on the right speaker, and then on the left speaker is your rant
mm.
in Tagalog. And I
That's right.
guess in the context, um, in impertinence to the context, so Kaz is talking about s'mores, and are you
Mm-hmm.
talking about Marlboro, like the cigarettes? Because at the very end of the track, you start like hacking up and like all of that. So what is the basis of what you're talking about in
Yeah.
Tagalog? Is it just one kind of stream of consciousness kind of rant?
I I know you'd get it because from the title, it's called Smallboro.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it is about it. Well, I didn't mention the brand specifically on the story, but it is about it's about cigarettes.
yeah,
So um, I happen to be a smoker,
yeah.
so not proud of that, by the way. I tell kids not to start unless you wanna regret it when you're older. But the story is that it's different. So you mentioned you described what Kaz was saying on one channel. So on my side, I was telling a story about me with a friend buying cigarettes from a store, and then they're out of cigarettes, and they tell us that some guy bought it, like a tall guy, really tall guy, bought it. So we set out to find that guy because he bought all of the smokes from the store. So we did find the guy, but he was up a tree. He was perching on the top of the tree, like smoking lots of sticks in
Wow.
his mouth, right? And we realized that it was this mythical creature called Capre. That's a Philippine mythical creature. It's called Capre. So this Capre is actually like a half horse, half human, and they are always seen with the tobacco.
Wow. So
That's right.
it's like something
Yeah.
that's ingrained in
Uh-huh.
the culture, and
That's right.
it's part of mythology
Yeah.
too. That
Exactly. Exactly. And the reason why I was coughing at the end is because in the story We were all the air was filled with smoke as we saw the captain. So we were, oh, it's so full of smoke, and we couldn't breathe. And then it just coincided with the laugh from Kaz on the other channel. So that was a great moment right there. Great ending for the track.
So did you plan how
Mm.
each step of your audio channel
Mm.
journey played out? Was it
No,
very
we just
methodical, or was it like very spontaneous and by pure
it,
coincidence?
it
Um,
was spontaneous, Jake. Like I tell you, I told him, let's make a 2 minute track. All right, okay. Create something from your synths. All right, I'll create a drum beat, like a droning kind of stuff. All right, play your guitar and then what you do, and then I put some theremin on there as well, and then after the all the instrumentals were laid out, I said, "Here's a microphone. You got 2 minutes to tell a story. And what do I say? Whatever comes in your mind, like just off the top of your head." And then he made that story, and then I said, "Okay, it's my turn." And then I just made up that story on the spot, and then it just coincided at the end because we just have that 2 minutes right there. So it was written and recorded in just well, like
wow,
that.
it just really, it just kind of blew my mind, and I guess made you.
you know,
It was two
spontaneity
two
is.
forms of two
Mm,
forms of getting your
mm,
fix. One was
mm,
cigarettes, and then
ooh,
the other one was like
edibles.
edibles, like a lot of people do
Exactly.
now. So it was like past and present coinciding and colliding in some way.
Yeah, that's the only reason why the EP is has that explicit explicit warning.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so shout out there to Kaz for that track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Mm,
the next track is White Collar Criminals. That's the B
mm,
side of Down. And
right.
just kind of give a synopsis of what down is, what down
Mm.
means to you, and then where white collar criminals comes in like as the B side, as like the complement to that.
I think it's more of on the opportunistic side of powerful people. You know, Down is straight up about our current president. You know, when Lenny Robredo lost on the presidential race, we were so like really depressed. Like my wife and I cried. Lots of my friends did too, and it was like a hopeless kind of godforsaken country. That's how it felt, you know. So yeah, I wrote down um, based on something that we did. Me and my friend did. His name's Lakan, and we made something like years ago, probably a decade ago, and it's just a riff and in my melody. And asked him about it if he remembers it, but he doesn't. But I still have the recording. So from that, I recreated it and then changed up the lyrics to reflect how I feel and how many of my friends feel about the situation, about about these zealots, these fanatics, the current president, and how we feel about him too. So that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a kind of mid-tempo, catchy kind of music. So
Yeah.
many. It's one of the most accessible track from the album. So lots of, especially kids, actually like that. The younger people, they actually like the song, and some of them don't even know that it's what it's about, you know. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that way.
I mean, in my review of
Uh,
the of your refugees, I just
mm,
equated each of the tracks to a
mm,
whole kind of I don't want to say nebulous, but more
mm,
like in tune, very broad kind of
mm.
synopsis of just life experiences in general, and
And you're
like
not wrong.
all about the internal and
Mm,
external, and the fact that it
mm,
was based on something extremely specific, that
yes.
just it just makes me glad that you're here to provide that sort of additional
Mm,
context.
mm,
And what about so with white collar criminals? I kind
mm,
of for that song, I kind of like we talked about before with like the modern way like people promote their music, promote their lives essentially,
mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
influencers. We're kind of all kind of slaves
Mm.
to white collar criminals, meaning like the big wigs that control
Yeah.
social media
Mm-hmm.
and like, you know, every kind of corporate aspect. You know,
Mm,
you know how like everything is tailored to the
mm,
user now, and it's not just you discover something extremely unique. It's all catered to
mm.
you, and it's all done like totally intentionally, and it makes us into kind of zombies, like stuck in comfort. Is that kind of the thing that you were going for?
Well, you're not wrong. All right. Well, I have that word. Hold on. I had that word earlier. Uh, we're the products. What you were explaining, right? But you're not wrong on down, and you're not wrong on white collar criminals because because that's what art is. You know, no one's wrong. However you interpret creation from the artist, you know, it's up to you. Once this creation leaves the artist, like if you throw it out into the world, it can be interpreted in many ways. And yes, that is one very valid. In fact, there are of course like
There's different layers to it
interpretations that
there.
are there are of course some interpretations that would be a reach, but no, you're definitely on the right path, you know. But I
Yeah.
wrote White Collar Criminals back in free radio, my first band.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and funny enough, my brother, who was the guitarist, my co-songwriter there, didn't does not remember that song at all. But I had it in my mind for so long, for over a decade, like 12 years, and I still had I still had some of the lyrics, the melody. I don't remember the guitar parts because, like I said, I didn't play guitar before, so I had to recreate it and then just build on it and complete it. You know, so the time that I wrote like Call It Criminals, it still is the same message from the time that I originally wrote it. So I was working at a corporate company, the BPO call center, as they say. So that was the intention, you know, with the observations as well from my friends, especially with media networks, because I studied communication. So lots of my friends worked in media networks, and the the their circumstances are really just sad. So, like I said, that's opportunistic people, like just taking advantage of of your skills
Oh,
just
I
because.
see.
Yeah,
So from what
yeah.
you're saying, it was
Mm,
directly related to
Mm.
and your
Working
job,
for corporate.
kind of
Mhm.
like the
Yeah.
corporate aspect of your
Yeah.
job, and
That is correct. Yeah.
here I am, like kind of putting it in a broader context of
Mm.
it's still like coincidentally being relevant today with the current
Very much.
climate that we're in.
Very much. Yeah. Yeah. And it's even more appropriate. It's even more apt to describe it like that. And that's the first time I've heard that. And in fact, it amuses me that it's so relevant in that way, and especially because it applies to almost everyone in the planet. You know, your interpretation.
That's really cool.
So
And
thanks for that.
yeah, it's kind of
Mm,
like a tangent on that.
mm,
Um, I was wondering, like, when it comes to your old songs, um,
mhm.
are there a lot of songs in your old catalog that you still find merit in? Like, for
Yeah.
example, on Refugees, on your
Mm,
last album, the last track was Let Me Out
mm,
of Here. And
mhm,
you had mentioned, um, we talked about this before, but you had mentioned to me
mm,
that Let Me Out of Here was an old
mhm,
track. And I was so
mm,
surprised that regardless how old it was,
mm.
it fit in. It wrapped up the EP like so nicely. So
Yeah.
do you still find a lot of merit in the songs that you've written, like I guess you'd even say years or even a decade before then? Because a lot of times you'll find an artist looking back even 10 years and they're like, no, that song is shit, that whole album is shit.
That's the thing, you know. You're also a songwriter, and I'm a huge admirer of your music, and you know that too. So I think you know this, that when you write a song, you write it as if it's going to be timeless. Like if someone listens to it like 50 years from now, they're still going to like it. You know, they're still it's still the lyrics and the message is still relevant. So that's how I write music too. You know, so you kind of avoid the specifics. You kind of avoid the what do you call this? Like the current way of speaking, you know. So you kind of avoid being too specific through cultures and through ideas. So you make it as you know as general as possible to have that message inside you. Like when I wrote White Collar Criminals, you know, and still it's still relevant today, right? So to answer your question, yeah, tons of songs, and that's what I love about my catalog because I got a whole vault of songs that I can just go back to. In fact, just last week, um, I've I've recreated. I've went back and took back two or three new songs that I want to record again properly this time. So yeah, all the songs that I have written ever since are still viable for re-recording.
Hmm. That's really cool, man. The next track after that is Urban Nightmare, and that came from Empty Cemetery. So
Yeah.
Urban Nightmares is kind of
Mhm.
like, would you consider that kind of like an interlude? Because
Kind of.
it's empty it's empty cemetery, but like but then
uh,
it has its own like unique like
uh-huh.
synthesized like
Hmm.
kind of accompaniment. Now that's more of a given
Hmm.
because in the previous tracks you kind of had to draw
Uh-huh.
your own conclusions as far as how they connect. But
Hmm.
this one is kind of easily laid out for you, right? So, like, what
Definitely,
inspired you
definitely.
to go back to Empty Cemetery, make an entirely new kind of?
If we're talking about inspirations, all right, let me just go back to the tracks that we talked about from the last year EP, right? So we started with Small Goro, right? That was actually inspired by Velvet Underground because they have tracks like that, like different
Yeah, yeah,
channels, two vocals, you know. So and then White Collar Criminals was just a classic punk, you know, buzz tops, whichever it kind of harkens back to that kind
yeah.
of
The whole
scene.
British punk sound, right?
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, and we recorded White Collar Criminals in just a day. We completed the recording in just a day, just one afternoon. In fact. But I did record the guitar and vocals the night before that. So yeah, that's very quick. So yeah, shout out to Steve Albini. He's a great, you know, I just remembered him from his letter to Nirvana that they just released years ago. Going back to Urban Nightmare though, that was inspired by Stone Roses.
Yeah,
Yeah, Stone Roses has a song called "I Want to Be a Bird."
yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
big one.
that was a big one, right? But if you listen to the album, there's a song called was it was it Don't Stop?
I think that's the one. Yeah,
Oh no, no, no. No, but I don't remember exactly. But there's one song, maybe Waterfall, and then right after that song, Waterfall, they had they had the track reversed.
oh man.
They had the track reversed, and they just kind of sang over it. Just the instruments, and they kind of sang over it, and it was just kind of psychedelic for me. So that's the same thing that I did for Urban Nightmare. From Empty Cemetery, I just reversed the main riff, and then I just put some, you know, weird stuff, and all those kind of voices and synths that you hear. That's definitely a Radiohead influence.
Wow.
Yeah, and the last part of the song, going to the end, there's this kind of Morse code that you hear.
Yeah.
So that's the only lyrics that you'll find there.
Yeah,
So
because I mean it is code, it is sounds,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like those are meant to, you know, decode words.
yeah. That's right.
So
Exactly.
Morse code
Exactly.
does technically, at a very technical standpoint, it does count as
Yeah.
lyrics. So going to
Yeah.
the fourth track.
Did you ever see a telegram from the 90s?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah, you did. All right.
yeah.
Go ahead.
And, jeez, I remembered like during like they had this concert that's similar to Live Aid, but it was done in
Hmm.
like modern times, and
Hmm.
the jingle for it was and it's just so funny that
Uh,
it's that it turned out that way, and
mm.
so like going to the fourth track, Greetings Farewell. That was from the song Three Quarters. So again, talk about how those two kind of came to coexist.
Here's the thing. When I write a B side, when I decide what the B side is for an A side for a single that I release, I don't actually think about it that much. You know, it doesn't have. They don't actually have to be related because that's the point of the B side to, you know, showcase your the other parts of you, the parts of you that you don't necessarily have to sell. You know, so. Um,
I
of
see.
course they're related because it's still me.
I can, yeah, I can.
Mm,
It's just
mm,
another side to
mm,
you, and I
mm,
think it's kind of
mm,
it's kind of unexpected how that works because like other times you'll find a B-side you can in unexpected ways you can sell it because that's what
mm.
happened with Vanilla Ice. He was pushing
There you
for
go.
play that funky music right on the A
There you go.
side, but then
There you go.
someone decided to flip it over, and then
Uh-huh.
like Ice Ice Baby, the B side became the big thing. So you never know nowadays. But I
Yeah,
completely understand what you mean.
yeah. And then Queen just went after him. Guys, which is true. Anyway,
So
but
so
yeah, it does
greetings,
happen.
so greetings, farewell.
Mm-hmm,
That's like kind of like for three quarters for
mm-hmm,
the main song you have this kind of like bluesy kind of do
mm-hmm.
dun 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 dun,
Yeah.
like and it's like oh man like I come back to that time after
Mm-hmm.
time and it's just like
It's,
it's like another like branching off point like
mm-hmm.
stylistically but somehow it's unmistakably you it fits even though
Yeah.
it's like more
Mm-hmm.
stompy more bluesy and greetings
Mm,
farewell by contrast is very folky kind
mm,
of kind of downtrodden I remember off
mm-hmm.
screen we spoke about Elliott Smith and how you're
Mm.
very inspired by him so it's like so greetings farewell is it sort of that same kind of somber energy coming through in both the guitar and the lyrics?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very much like most observations that just come to me every now and then. So I just, in fact, when I wrote the lyrics, it wasn't supposed to be a song. I just wrote those three paragraphs right there. And I put it out. uh, Whoever understands this. These are my thoughts. And then come like last year when I said I need another visa. Then I just here's three chords. All right, like just two notes each. And then lay those lyrics into melody, and that's why you can't see any lines in there. Can't hear any lines because
Yeah,
that's not intended as
it
lyrics.
doesn't necessarily rhyme, but it
Yeah,
doesn't have
yeah,
to rhyme because
doesn't
it
have to.
fits so
Yeah,
well with the accompaniment, with that acoustic accompaniment. That's really cool.
hmm yeah, and I didn't edit anything on that. It's like a free verse poetry right there. But the truth is, those are just three paragraphs right there. Because I read a lot well, not a lot, but I read some Orwell, some Nietzsche, all right? Those authors and some philosophers that actually hit you even with just some few lines. And I want to be able to convey a message in just a few sentences without expounding on it and be able to get across directly to the listener.
That's really cool. And I guess did three quarters kind of have that um, spontaneity similarly, or was that very planned out, very I want to make this kind of song kind of thing?
I guess three quarters was also spontaneous. I think I wrote that at the time when one of my heroes, Chris Cornell, passed away. So I think I wrote that in just one night as well, and then just laid all the lyrics and the structure of the song, and that's it. But it took years before I was able to record it with a band.
Wow.
Most of my songs have that spontaneity with that. So uh, I love that you chase that feeling. Like you don't stop unless it's done. You know, if you want to polish the structure later on, that's fine. But as long as you have that concept, that shape, you you basically have that sound already,
Yeah,
right?
and I
Mhm.
think it it works too in the sense of you write the lyrics in one night,
Mhm.
and of course you can come
Mhm.
back to them, and if they're kind
Mhm.
of incoherent, you can sort of change the wording here and there. But I think
That's right.
in
Mhm.
your instance, like um, the the more like focused you are at a particular time of day, and you write it as quickly as possible, you'll find that it's the rawest, it's the most pure if it's left alone.
That's right. That's right. And it's I can't find any better word than pure. You're exactly right.
Moving on to the, the exclusive tracks of the EP, we have Surrender. And that was your, I don't know if it was your initial foray into this type of music, but as long as I've known you, we've known each other since 2012, and
Mhm.
you've definitely shown me the folkier side. And as time went on, you moved on to more of the grungy side. But
Mhm.
Surrender invokes like a very shoegaze kind of vibe to it. Again, you were
Mhm.
inspired by Elliott Smith in terms of vocal layering and
Yeah.
everything of that sort. So, how did Surrender come about? I mean, the sounds, the guitars, just the overall
Mhm.
presentation of it was it like kind of a new undertaking? Like, you know what, I want to try something new, or was this something you
No.
had in the woodwork already?
That's a great question. Well, it's not exactly Elliott Smith that inspired me for the vocal layering. I think it's more Kevin Shields, which is more apt
Which is more
for the
attuned
genre.
to like what you were going
Exactly,
for, right?
exactly. Yeah. So I've had this song for years as well. When my I think as early as when my kid was my eldest was so I put it around 14, something like that. But it was a folk song. It was a folk song, same melodies, same chords, but I wrote it on ukulele. In fact,
Wow.
so it was just all strumming and stuff, and then I recorded it on a piano when my mother-in-law passed away as as an as an offering to this old. But that was a very rough recording, and I wasn't satisfied with that. I was really bad recording at all. So um, I resurrected the song when uh, my friend, two of my friends actually passed away just weeks apart. So
Wow.
they're very young. Yeah, one is like 38, the other is like in his 40s, and they were like healthy people. I haven't seen them in a long time, and then all of a sudden, I just learned that they died, and it just the mortality
So
just
that
dawned
kind
on me
of,
like
it's
anyone.
still kind of, someone
Mm,
closest to you passed away, but then you're
mm,
reminded again, like,
mm,
you know, when when it essentially happens again, you're like, I gotta go back to that song because there's something there. There's something that
mm.
needs to be kind of addressed.
That's right. That's right. You know, it just gives me that kind of bittersweet feeling of having spent time with my friends, the love that we had with them, and just imagining that one day I'm gonna pass away too, and I hope God that we see each other wherever that dimension is, if ever there's any, you know even if it's just in our heads, you know. So yeah, I did resurrect that. Uh, no pun intended. That song, and I thought of a different approach, you know. And I think I've been listening a lot to My Boy Valentine and Slow Dive at the time, so that's where the inspiration came in. So this is fiddling with my effects, and oh, this is good. This is interesting. Right, I'll do it. And until now, I can't play it live because of all the complexities I did on the recording.
Yeah, I think when you do play it live, you can go back to that raw kind of aesthetic. Um, it would be interesting to hear a piano interpretation, or even if you decide to play the song live, you can do it like all acoustically, and even without the layers, like you can still kind of convey it in the chords that you've
Definitely.
chosen.
Yeah, yeah. I did use chords on the recording though. It's just not that obvious because of all the other layers. But yeah, I play it every now and then on the guitar, on an acoustic guitar. So all the songs that I wrote, even if it's recorded
You can
differently, I
transcribe the
know.
styles.
Yeah, I definitely can play it. Even like Empty Cemetery, even if it's kind of upbeat and bad bass, I can turn it into like a very ballady kind of stuff. So I I like that. I like that we're able to redress our songs whenever we can.
Right. And
Yeah.
now something that
Mm,
you can kind of play live, but not
mm.
really, is the last track on the EP, Nova Eterna. So that kind of fits in with the same thing.
Mm.
You mentioned in the
Yeah.
description of the two
Mm.
tracks of Surrender
Mm.
and Nova Eterna that they're addressing
That's
death
it.
rather, in
Mm-hmm.
two different vantage points. So
Mm.
the the uh the vibe that I
The
got
vibe.
from
Mm-hmm.
Nova Eterna was like um kind of like a life flashing before
Mm.
your eyes kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a great description right there.
So what was
Hmm.
the inspiration for that song?
I just wanted to create something all by myself, but in a full band version. You know, I think at the time my bassist and my drummer was so busy, and I had this creative juice flowing inside that I needed to release. I need to do something about it. So, and then unfortunately, my pedal board was not working because I had this, what do you call this again? I had my adapter, it needed replacing. So what I did was I actually recorded the riff raw sounding, and I did the bass myself. It was actually just a guitar, but it was just like
Pitch down?
pitched down to sound like a bass. So
Uh-huh.
that's why it sounds kind of thin. And even the drums is kind of thin as well. So it was just, it sounds like a demo, but I don't care because it's what came out of me. As for the riff, I think I was listening to No, I made the riff, and then later on, after days, I realized where the inspiration was from, and I kind of wanted to throw it away because because maybe it sounded like it, but I realized no, it's still different. It's actually from Turnstile, a song called Blackout.
Right.
You can hear that. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's where the riff was inspired by.
And then where
Yeah.
did you get the samples and all that
I
for like?
just, I just look for, I just look for like static, like radio sounds, wherever I can find one, like laser sounds, because I'm a huge fan back then of, and until now, I still listen to a lot of Apollo 440, My Chemical Brothers, all those DJs that Daft Punk, definitely.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's a lot of a lot of influence on me
Like the
on that stuff.
dialogue too is very like
Yeah, very much.
pertinent to the
Yeah,
theme of the song. And it's like
that's true.
different English
Uh
dialects. I mean, is there
huh.
one? I think one of the voices is Pinoy, and then like another is like
Nah.
Indian. Like, where did you find those clips?
No. Well, here's what. I'm actually in danger for that track because they might actually they might actually ask me to take it down because of those samples. But one is Carl Sagan, the American, right? The other one is Carl Jung, the the psychologist, Carl Jung with Sigmund Freud, right? And then the Indian one is Sadhguru. He's
Sadhguru, yeah, I've
like
seen him,
Sadhguru,
seen
yeah,
his videos.
yeah, yeah. And the last one is Isaac Asimov,
Wow.
fiction writer. Yeah, I just
You just
looked,
found them and you like rip them and you're like, I
just
could use them.
scoured the internet, and I actually had to make sure that background sound removed. So I did what I can, and it just I like the way I made those. It just fits, and I'm satisfied with what I did.
Right. Now,
Mm,
and it's cool how it all turned out. Now, um,
mm,
the band that you currently have as part of your lineup, it's Rob Equiza, but I
mm.
guess you call it the Rob Equiza band. You, um, you mentioned
Mm,
Jarrell. Jarrell is the bassist, and then
mhm,
Spart is the drummer. And how did you get in touch with them and like kind
mm.
of keep that connection going to this day? Um, was that connection based on like what you'd already established during your band days in like Free Radio and Poor Dead Rats and everything?
Wow. Well, for Spark, yeah. First thing, I like how you say Jarrell's name. We just say it Jarrell here, but when you say it Jarrell, it
Well,
sounds like, well, he's from the hood, right? Or
okay, Gerald, yeah.
Superman's dad, right?
It's like, well, it's like there's this Irish guy on Instagram named
uh,
Bernard, but like um, everyone's used
Bernard,
to saying Bernard, and then
Bernard.
in a similar vein, there's the
uh-huh,
one of the Bee Gees is named Morris, but everyone is
uh-huh.
used to saying Maurice. But back to
Oh.
yeah, back to the connection that you had. How did you meet those
Yeah.
guys, and how did you set
Well,
up the connection with them?
number one, my current drummer is Steve. But yeah, Spark did play for the Refugees album, and he was my drummer for most of the tour last year. But I met Spark back in late 2000s, and when my first band for your radio became inactive, he became the drummer for a band that I put up with Don, which is Cool Red Rats, my second band, right? So he was a drummer for that, and later on, when the band got disbanded, and then Spark and I met up again, he played for me as well. At the same time, Steve was filling in for him whenever Spark is not available, right? So Steve plays for my current drummer, Steve. He plays for about 3 or 4 bands right now. But essentially, yeah, they're sessionists. But I have different sessionists, but they're the most permanent, like the most constant rather. Jaro, I met him through one of my friends, Danielle. So Daniel introduced me to him when I needed a bassist when I started going solo. So Jarrell was my first bassist ever, and until now, he still is that committed. So I'm very much, appreciative of
Essentially,
that
you're
guy.
the two original
Yeah,
core members
yeah.
of the Rob Equiza band.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And what's great about that guy is that he's not as a derogatory term, but he's kind of a slacker, but he does his job so well. Like I can give him a song like, okay, study this. All right, okay, let's observe me and then just play along. And then he'd get it. He'd get it. There are many times when I just call him up and then, okay, we got to record a song, and then right there and then we just study it for like 30 minutes or an hour, and then okay, I'm ready. There you go, it's done.
Now, on the times where you
Mm,
don't have a drummer, and
mm,
specifically when you're recording, do you use a
mm-hmm.
specific drum program?
I do, yeah.
What is that
In fact,
program?
oh yeah, I it's called Easy Drummer, Easy Drummer 2 to be specific. But I also use Superior Drummer, which is by an extension sort of to Easy Drummer as well.
Is it
So I
like a
use samples.
VST plugin?
Um, which one? No, it's a whole software.
Oh, it's the whole software. So
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
integrate it as part of your DAW?
No,
Oh,
basically,
okay.
I create the drum track first with the structure in mind, and
Oh,
then
okay. And then you carry
yeah,
that over into.
to the DAW.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah, and
that's how it
that's
works.
where and that's going to be my backbone for the recording of the guitars and
So you start
bass and
with
vocals.
drums and then build
Let's start with drums.
everything there. Okay.
Definitely, definitely, yeah. Which is sometimes even easier for me because I don't have to um, think about the mistakes of a drummer, or you don't have to be anxious about you know him fucking up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying my drummers fuck up all the time. They're great drummers, in fact. But yeah, it's more of an efficient way for me sometimes. I do like the real sound if I have the resources. But yeah, I use Easy Drummer sometimes, and that's Nova Eterna and Surrender was for your drum sound.
Mm-hmm. And I
Yeah.
also want to talk about the videos that you have. Going going through the album, um, Refugees, the ones
Mm,
that I saw immediately
mm,
were the one for Zealots. It had
mm,
you performing the song across multiple performances, but
mm,
like the most interesting thing was you were on
mm.
the car in like this very
Scared.
focused focused kind of look, and it's like um I can just imagine the thing that went
Mm.
on prior to that. Like, guys, I know we normally have a good time when we're driving around, hanging out, going to gigs, but we're doing this just for the video, okay? This is for the
It's
video.
acting.
So, like,
It's acting, man.
make your looks as blank and as, like, intentionally, like,
Yeah, because you're mad, you know. In the song, you're mad, so you gotta act like you're mad when you're shooting that, you know. So it's very, you know, it's very influenced by I don't know what's his name, Jules, and you know, in Pulp Fiction,
yeah, yeah.
Samuel Jackson and and Travolta, you know, and not just that, but a lot of music videos from back in the, you know, the 80s and the 90s. There's a lot of it's not original, but you know, it's something that kind of reminds you of that time. So I love that. Like, you know, Charles Bronson with his car, his old car, you know, lots of other action films that have that kind of scene.
Like, I focus on you because you're the main
Mhm.
artist that
Uh,
facilitates that, but it's kind of through
uh,
watching those clips, it's like
mm.
the many faces of Rob.
Well, when you're on stage, you know, you kind of put that persona. So, well, in between songs, you kind of have to loosen up. But I think it's the same when you shoot a video because you have to embody the song. So,
Yeah, and then the one for Surrender stuck out to me
mm,
too because
mm,
um it's all those songs we talked about, they may have a connection between each other and they
mm,
may not. And like
mm,
by the song Surrender, you
mm.
essentially arrive at the empty cemetery, the Ayama cemetery. So that
That's
must have been
it,
like a big like coincidence in that regard.
yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Sure is. Like, I didn't intend that, in fact, but I just, you know, I just we went to Aoyama Cemetery because that's where Hachiko was buried. If you remember that film, Richard Gere and the dog,
Yeah.
Hachiko. Yeah. So that's where Hachiko's grave is with his master. So that's why we went there. So when we were there, I just, you know, just had this idea. What's my current symbol? All right, okay. This should have been empty cemetery. But then again, I don't like being too literal.
Hmm.
You know, like if it's an empty cemetery, the song's empty cemetery, and you're in a
And
cemetery.
it's
That's I
like
think that's too
very
much.
bluntly having to do with the
Yeah,
cemetery. The point
yeah,
is
yeah,
like a little bit
uh,
too easily in front of you, right?
yeah. Even on album covers and cover art for singles, I don't like literal interpretations
You
of it.
don't like
Yeah,
explicitly drawing attention to the nature of the single.
that's it.
I mean, you want to
Mm,
have
mm,
some connection to it, but
mm,
also make it as broad as possible so
that's
that,
right.
like we were saying, when it comes to
Mm,
music as well as the visuals, the
mm,
interpretation is more so up to the person listening or watching.
that's right. That's right. Like if like if Pearl Jam had an album cover that's actually pearls inside a jar,
Or
I'd
granted, if
lose
they
it,
still
man.
made videos today.
If they still right? So I don't like that. So I think the connection between the cemetery and surrender is because surrender is definitely about death, you know, and it just there's this one particular scene in that music video where I was walking and there's this old lady that walks towards me and we pass by each other. I like that because that was a coincidence. No one was supposed to be there. It was an empty place.
So like
But
when you look back at the footage, you're like, holy shit, we can actually
yeah,
like use something
yeah,
on this.
definitely. Yeah. And I love that because I had lyrics on the song that says, "I'll see you later, my friend, when we're older instead."
And then
When,
that's when the old lady passes by, right?
I don't know if it's that part of the song that's it's on there, but yeah, it's definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Mm,
wrapping this up and considering your
mm.
trajectory and your career thus far, where do you see this going? All these themes, all these experience going into your next bit of material.
Well, I just want to keep on going and want to keep writing and recording and releasing. I do have some uh, hopes that it does sell, literally sell, or at least I make money off of it. But even if it doesn't, I'm gonna keep doing it, because it is what satisfies me. And then in currently rather, Daryl and Steven are with me on the second album. We've been rehearsing for weeks now, and been teaching them some of the songs. We're on 4 songs now, and I'll probably release an EP as well. I'm kind of torn if I'm going to record. I will probably have to record my Tagalog songs as well because I don't want them to I don't want to forget them because it's the other side of me. It's kind of
The
like I would
local
sneak like you
audience
say.
still matters.
Exactly. But because of the response for refugees last year, that's the reason why I was very intent on working on the second album, which is the direct successor to Refugees. But now I think I have to give attention to my other type of materials. I can do it probably if I just have the time, make time. We make time for what we love,
Hmm.
for who we love to. Yeah.
Very well said.
Mm.
Lastly, anything you'd like to say to your fans?
To the 7 fans that I have, I don't know. Well, thank you for continually appreciating the music, and I hope they help you in some way. I hope they inspire you, um, however way it does. But I you know, man, it's the first time I've been asked that question, dude. I don't actually know. I want to go a Bob Dylan like I don't care about my fans, but I actually do, man. I mean, I care about everyone. And then especially if you do appreciate my music, well, that's great. It's a great bonus for me because I do this to express myself, to send that message out. But if you like it and you enjoy it, then thank you. I appreciate you.